All right. Healthcare. How'd you guys do reading this chapter? Like I told you, Patrick's back because he was still dumbfounded after this morning. All right. How many of you were thoroughly confused? All right. Like I said, Patrick came back because he's still shaking his head going, it doesn't sound right. So, all right. Once they passed the Affordable Care Act, healthcare became a part of your tax return. All right. Whether you get it from an employer, whether you don't have it at all, or you get it through what's called the marketplace. Okay. Or any other source, or you didn't have it part of the year or whatever. So basically, the Affordable Care Act, we're going to talk about minimum essential coverage. We're going to talk about exemptions. And then if you did not, you have to pay a shared responsibility payment, which is kind of your penalty for not having health insurance. Okay? We're going to talk about the premium tax credit. Okay? The premium tax credit is only available to those that go through the marketplace. You can either take it as one lump sum, or you can take it on a monthly basis. All right? We'll talk about the calculation of that. We'll talk about if you did not have health insurance, that there's an 8965 that you can try to get an exemption. And boy, is there a lot of exemptions. All right, and we'll share those. You'd be surprised. Okay, so healthcare coverage on page 16.4. The individual shared responsibility, as the Supreme Court called it, tax. Okay, but nobody that wrote the Affordable Care Act wanted to call it a tax. The individual shared responsibility provision requires the taxpayers and each member of their tax family do at least one of the following: have qualifying health coverage, qualify for a health coverage exemption, or make the shared responsibility payment. Basically, that's what we're talking about. They have it, they don't have it, or they can get off the hook and get out of jail free. Your tax family. Your tax family is those individuals on your tax return. So when we talk about health coverage, mom and dad live with you. It's not your responsibility, or your shared responsibility, I guess would be a better term, to pay for that if they do not have health insurance, because they are not on your tax return, even though they live under your roof. They may be part of your household, but they're not part of your tax household or your tax family. Okay? Minimum essential coverage is what everybody has to have. Okay? That's why, you know, based on what the coverage has to be and every insurance company has to have. So that's where you have to, you know, have everything that's in there. But the minimum essential, if you look on there, for those of you that know what Medicare Part A is, basically that's hospitalization. That's the minimum essential coverage. Really, it just has to be hospitalization. They don't have to cover prescriptions, don't have to cover doctors. Now, for plans to be eligible for the marketplace and things like that, that's where you get all these goofy riders that you have to pay for now. Okay, whether you want them or not. Things are in there too: employee plans, individual plans, TRICARE is in there. It says most types of TRICARE. Military, it depends if it's TRICARE for life, or it might be just basic TRICARE that covers prescriptions, but not any hospitalization. So there's many variables there. Okay, foreign coverage for our friends from the north, they have met minimum essential coverage. All right. The exemptions. There are three types of coverage exemptions: marketplace, one that you do for your household based on your filing threshold, and ones you can do for individuals. And we do that on a form 8965. Okay? Now, on 16.6, those are just a portion of the exemptions. All right? You can see there's columns marked granted for marketplace, claimed on the tax return, and then a code. So if we do it on the tax return, we would have it, or we'd have a code in part 3. If we do it granted by the marketplace, it can still be on the tax return, but we have to turn in a separate form. Okay? So we'll kind of go through these when we hit the problems and stuff like that. But like I did this morning's class, the exemption form, all right? So if I go into my friends, the Browns, and at the top of our ACA worksheet, we check that they're looking for an exemption. They say they need their get out of jail free. A little form 8965 is going to pop up. There's 3 parts to this, and this is the 3 parts they were talking about. Part 1 says marketplace. If I'm going after the marketplace exemption, I'm going to put the name, social security number, and then you would have to put an exemption certificate number. All right? Obviously, you would not have that because they would be asking for an exemption. All right? And this would be a hardship exemption. Oddly enough, the certificate number matches the number of letters in the word pending. So when you file the return, you put pending in there. They mail off this shared responsibility form that you fill out by hand and they sign, and it goes to Kentucky. Their return takes off into the cloud, and at some point, I guess they meet. All right? Now, the shared responsibility. Okay. Oops. I'm back here. Hardship exemptions. These are exemptions that you can put in if you did not have health insurance and you want to get off the hook. All right, so this is that pending, granted by the marketplace. This is something that you choose on the form to say that you could not have insurance. It's not in your book. Okay. Angela's frantically going through the book. Where is that?
Yeah.
All right.
I want to mark it.
We have that you're homeless. We have that you're facing an eviction or foreclosure. You received a shut-off notice from a utility company. So if you want to get off the hook for shared responsibility, just don't pay your cable bill for a month. Or let them turn the lights off for a day. Then you don't have to pay your premium for not, or policy for not having insurance. Okay? Experience domestic violence. You experience the death of a family member. Okay? Let's hope that that's accidental. Nobody's taking out a hit on a family member just to get off the hook. Okay? You experienced a fire, flood, or other natural or human-caused disaster. I love human-caused disaster. Okay? Would that be a 2-year-old? Okay? Experienced fire, flood, or other natural. Okay, so Texas, California, you know, those people, they can get the hardship. Filed for bankruptcy. Medical expenses that you couldn't pay. So you don't have insurance.
What about the people that live at Lake Ontario?
Yeah. Yeah. I'd probably say yes. Yeah. Okay, that's a hardship. You know, they kind of, with what's been determined by the state. But, you know, medical expenses that you could not pay, that you have debt, and that kind of the dog chasing his tail. So you don't have insurance, and then you have medical bills, but you don't have to pay for the penalty for not having insurance because you have medical bills. Okay? Unexpected increases in necessary expenses due to caring for an ill, disabled, or aging family member. You claim a child as a tax dependent who's been denied coverage for Medicaid or CHIP. All right. As a result of an eligibility decision, that's through the marketplace, that the premiums were determined too high and it was a mistake. You were determined ineligible for Medicaid because your state didn't expand. You don't get that in New York because we are expanded Medicaid. Instead of 100% of the poverty level, you can have 138%. Your grandfathered individual insurance plan that you've had since March 23rd, 2010 or before, no idea where that was canceled because it doesn't meet the requirements for the Affordable Care Act, then you have that. And then 14, you had any other hardship if you experienced another hardship obtaining health insurance. Use this form to describe your hardship. You can make your own up. Okay? Miscellaneous. I put in people unemployed. Whatever you can do. We send this form in, never had one denied. I think if they feel like if you've made the effort to do this hardship form, you must truly be under a hardship. Okay? So that's the penalty, yep, which this year would be 2.5% of your adjusted gross or modified adjusted gross income, or $695, whichever is greater. And we'll talk about the calculation of that a little bit later. All right? So that is your exemptions. That is the marketplace, granted by the marketplace. So some little building in Kentucky, a bunch of people sitting around the table saying, looks good, sounds good. Yep, I believe them. And then you don't have to pay the shared responsibility payment. Okay? So that's the top part of that 8965. All right? Now, if we have, when we were talking about the second one there from the book, they described it as claim for your return for your household. That's based on your filing status. So whatever the filing threshold that we learned about for the tax return based on the household and the filing status, if your ACA from the worksheet is less than that, you don't have to pay the penalty. Well, that's kind of silly because if you're below the filing threshold, I guarantee you're on Medicaid and you're not paying for insurance anyway. Okay? The last one, part 3, this is where we get to use all the little codes. Okay? So you see there we have coverage considered unaffordable, basically saying that what you would have to pay would be greater than 8.13% of your household income. You had a short-term coverage gap of less than 3 consecutive months. So, remember it said in the book, if you have insurance for 1 day, you have it for the entire month. So you could have 2 months and 15 days and qualify for 3 months of exemption. Talks about a citizen living abroad. You're in a health care sharing ministry, those co-ops that you hear, okay, like the old union models. You're a member of an Indian tribe, and yes, you must be a card-carrying member, okay? You're incarcerated, all right? So I told the morning class I have to do recertification every year. I have one seminar I do for 2.5 hours every year on how to get people that are incarcerated and or are non-citizens, illegal aliens, how to get them health insurance. Because there's certain parts of the Affordable Care Act that cover them. Because that person that's incarcerated, if they're required to go outside of the jail for a surgical procedure, they need to have insurance and they're covered. All right? So, basically, 3 squares, a bed, your own room, a trade. What else? Health insurance, free tuition. What else do you get in there? New friends. Okay. All right. It talks about, don't worry about the ones for G there. The one that's important is that you did not have expanded Medicaid, which we have. The other one is that healthcare tax credit. Remember, that's one that, if you were eligible for that we talked about the calculations, not the premium tax credit, but that health care tax credit. Don't see many of those unless somebody lost their job to a foreign trade. All right. Member of a tax household born or adopted during the year. Member of a tax household died during the year. Okay. They tend to like that one. They feel bad if you had somebody that was in the tax household that passed or was born. Okay. But in New York, If I put somebody in the marketplace and I check the box that they're pregnant, they're covered like that. No questions asked. Okay? The other thing about going through the marketplace that amazes me is I have an easier time proving identity on somebody that is an illegal alien or a non-citizen than I do that somebody that's a U.S. citizen. Because what I have to go through to get a driver's license proved is just unbelievable. But yet I can type in and check a box that they're not a citizen, and it just goes right on. So.
Yeah, let's move on.
Yep, that's it. That's why Patrick's back. He keeps shaking his head back there going. So, all right. Household income. The household income is not your AGI. It is your MEGI, modified adjusted gross income, okay? What that means is there are certain things that we do add back in. Good example is when we talked about Social Security. If somebody takes Social Security early at 62 and they don't have insurance, when they go into the marketplace, we have to add their gross, not their taxable, but their gross Social Security. So a lot of times that phases them out because then they get less. And I'll talk about that later when we do some of the calculations, okay? The other thing is if you have working children on there, you have to add in their income. So if I have a 15-year-old that's working at Tim Horton, well, let's say 17-year-old. 17-year-old working at Tim Hortons made $5,000. That's not taxable income on my tax return, but for the calculation of the penalty, I have to add their income. So I'm still getting a lot of wrinkled brows, just like this morning. So, all right. We see the filing threshold, okay? They're on 16.8. We're aware of all those, so that's where that household. All right. Okay. We have proof of health coverage. You will get one of three forms. You get a 1095-A if you're in the marketplace. All right, 1095-B or C, depending if you're an employer, or maybe you had health insurance through Medicaid or Child Health Plus, you might get a B. But you would get some form of a 1095 that would show who was covered by the insurance and what months they were covered. That's our validation. Our first year, none of those existed. We had a little form in the waiting room that they had to check off months, and we just had to take their word for it. Because what does not show up on your health insurance card? It's not like your driver's license says issued and expired. It doesn't show that. So we wouldn't know if somebody put down an insurance card and says, this is what I had all year long. It doesn't tell us on there. So that's where they started doing these 1095s. Okay? All right, on page 1610, we start talking about that 8965 that I showed you with all the exemptions. Like I said, somebody really had to think about it, that their exemption certificate numbers had the same number of spaces as the pending. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, so that's basically what we do for the exemption. Now, the other thing in the marketplace, go to 1615. We're going to talk about the premium tax credit. Okay? The premium tax credit is just what it basically says. It's for you to help pay for your premiums for your health insurance through the marketplace. You put in an application through the marketplace. They say based on your household, tax household, and your income, you're eligible for X number of dollars. Okay? The advanced premium tax credit means that rather than wait as a refundable credit on your tax return, you've decided to take your credit on a monthly basis to help lower your monthly insurance premiums for the plan that you've selected. Okay? And that is all reconciled on a form 8962. Okay? I didn't write the law. I did read it, contrary to what all the congressmen said they did, all 800 some pages.
Do the insurance companies administer that?
The premium tax credit,
The advance?
they do. When you do the marketplace, once that application, it goes to the insurance company and then they bill you the difference, okay? But like I said, you know, at the end of the year, you have to reconcile that. Okay? Now, to be eligible for this, we're on the bottom of 1616, there are certain income limits for the different stages, and it's all based off the federal poverty level. So you are considered, as an individual, living in poverty if your income is below $11,770. You can see on the table on 1617. Okay? You get a premium tax credit up to 400% of the federal poverty level. So if you're making as an individual $47,000 or less, you would be eligible for help to pay for your health insurance. All right? So as you can see there, family of 4. If we have it, the Cleavers, 2 parents, 2 kids, $97,000 or less, they're going to get help paying for their health insurance. All right. The one thing is, and we went round and round with the guy today and he didn't believe us. If you do, well, 2 things that we didn't. One is married filing separate, null and void, no premium tax credit. So when we have clients, now all of a sudden we've added something else, because what have we added? Married filing separate, we know loses a lot of credits. Some people with student loans, what are they required to do? To have it income based, they have to do married filing separate. But now if they're in the marketplace and they're getting $400 a month credit to help pay for their health insurance, what just happened to that? It's gone. You know, so all these things that they lose just because they're trying to income base their student loans, sometimes it's not worth it, depending on their situation. Okay? The other one is, if your income qualifies you for Medicaid or what's called an essential plan at $20 a month, and you decide you do not want it, you do not want to take the social assistance, then you are denied the advanced premium tax credit and you pay full price. We had a guy in the office today, Karen, who's works for me as far as being one of the navigators. Went round and around on him. All he had was Social Security and he would have qualified for Medicaid. Says, I don't want Medicaid. My doctor won't take it. Okay, here you go. He wanted a platinum plan. He wanted no deductible. He paid full price. So he's going to pay about $1,100 a month. And still have copays. If he was qualified for Medicaid, he'd have nothing. He might pay 50 cents for his generic prescription. Okay? So, you know, that's where that income falls in there. If you're between 100% and 150% of the federal poverty level, you qualify for the essential plan. All right? So if you're an individual making less than $24,160, that's not in the book. Okay? And Angela's frantically, where's that one?
I'm looking for something.
So if you're between 100 and 150% of the poverty level, or 138% and 150%, you qualify for what is called the essential plan. You get $20 a month insurance. That's less than $1 a day, as the advertisement says. No deductible, free preventative care, and almost no copays. If you're in the hospital for 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, you pay $150 copay. Norm and I have had this discussion. He's just shaking his head still. Okay? So that's the essential plan. So you can see a family of 4, if their modified adjusted gross income shows up to be $49,200 or less, they can do, if their kids are both below 19, they can get $20 a month insurance for the parents, $40. Their Child Health Plus is $9 for the 2 kids, that's $18. $58 a month, no deductible. and their greatest copay may be $15 for any time that they use it, barring a medical emergency. Okay?
I think it's ridiculous because I'm just going to be honest. When we moved into the state, we had to go through the marketplace because we're considered, insurance isn't offered, whatever. I called to get private insurance. He said, ma'am, you have to go through the state of New York.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, I'm calling Blue Cross Blue Shield. Ma'am, you're not understanding. You have to go through the marketplace. I said, okay, I'll go through the marketplace. Went through the marketplace. This is what they offer us.
Mm-hmm.
We pay, I don't know, a couple $100 a month, whatever, for the kids to all have.
Mm-hmm.
Then they call me back and say the limits are all raised.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody needs to go on Medicaid or whatever. And I said, no. We're fine with what we're paying now. I want to pay for my health insurance. Leave me where we're at. I want to pay for our family's health. He said, ma'am, you're not understanding. You don't have an option. I said,
this is the marketplace.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
I said, wait, you telling me I can't stay where I'm at and give you money for my health insurance? He said, no. If you do that, then you can go pay the regular rates like this man, and you don't have a choice.
There's
I think it's ridiculous that you have people who say, no, I want to pay my share
mm-hmm.
of health insurance, and you say, no, you can't.
Yep.
I just had this argument for 45 minutes
with the individual
last week. Yes.
Yeah.
With an insurance agent.
The other thing that comes into play is that I had two clients. He's on Medicare. She is not. Their household income was $43,000. So obviously, you look at this, they don't qualify. Did their application. They needed a gold plan. She had some medical issues, so they were going to be paying, for her 300 and some, whatever their substitute credit worked out. Put it all in. Okay. We got everything signed up. They picked out their plan. Week later, they got a letter in the mail, and I went and looked at it. They put her on Medicaid. Doesn't qualify. But for some reason, the marketplace put her on Medicaid. So your friends that are my friends too, somewhat, I think they recognize my phone number because they passed me off like crazy. I called them and says, you guys made a mistake. No, they don't qualify for Medicaid. Well, that's what the application says. I said, no, look at the income. Oh, yeah. Well, they can have the Medicaid for 12 months and then recertify.
Because we've already approved them.
Yeah.
And I told the man, I said, I think you're going off the wrong income. You're asking me what it's going to be next year, and I'm telling you it's higher than last year. He said, ma'am, you're not hearing me properly. I said, I'm hearing you properly.
Yeah, they'll force you onto Medicaid and the essential plan. Yeah.
He was like, it's already approved for 12 months. I wish you would just be quiet and move on.
Yeah.
I was like, that's awful.
Yeah.
That is so awful.
Yeah.
That I'm telling you I want to pay.
Mm-hmm.
And you tell me no. And then we wonder why the government's in a bind.
I know. Yeah, because, like I said, those thresholds, and when you talk to them there, they do not understand taxes. It's all based on the tax return, but the people that you talk to, they have no clue.
They penalize you for wanting to pay your fair share.
You guys are all tax preparers now, okay? When we have an S Corp or a K1 come over to a tax return, what line does it come onto? It comes onto a Schedule E, right? We know which line that is. So I had a client that had a K1, so I put the income in there. And they kept denying their application because I didn't provide supportive income. And I went round and round and finally got a supervisor. And she says, well, you're not showing their rental income. I said, they don't have rentals. They have a K1 from a corporation. Oh, okay. Went around and around, explained this to her. Got done, she goes, okay, but you need to put in the Schedule E with the rental income. Like, no, and finally I said to her, I says, okay, I want you to look at the bottom of the tax return you have in your hands. Whose name is on it? She looks and goes, well, it's yours. Yes, I did the tax return. I am a tax preparer. She backtracks, goes, well, we don't give tax advice. I can't help you with anything on this.
This is free. I'm giving it to you.
No, this is what they say, because then as soon as I say that I'm the tax preparer, and I say, look at the return, my name's on the bottom. They go, oh, we don't give tax advice. I said to her, good thing, because you don't know what you're talking about. But this is a supervisor, because she just would not. Or they move the income around. They don't understand capital losses. They're adding losses. The $3,000 is gains. Swinging somebody's income $6,000. And they just, you know, but like I said, it's a call center. And it's actually a call center that is, none of them are employees of the state of New York. It's a third party that they contract to that does that call center.
Well, this guy just kept telling me, ma'am, I've been in the business for 24 years selling insurance.
Yeah,
I said, well, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
So, yeah, I fully understand. I have, you know, in excess of 500 people on my dashboard, you know, the thing that you fill out that I do health insurance for, and there's not a one of them that I haven't had some type of issue.
Running
So,
with these,
oh my, so they're just pieces of work. So, but yep. Okay. The other thing too, the IRS does not understand the Affordable Care Act, and they are the governing body. Okay. What I mean by that is the 8962. Okay. We reconcile the advanced premium tax credit on there. The IRS cannot comprehend the fact that somebody does not want to take their premium tax credit on a monthly basis. If you have an individual that says, I don't want to take it, I'll pay, and then I'll get the credit at the end of the year because I'm unsure of my income. If you do that, you confuse the IRS. Because if the form goes in and they have this big refund with the premium tax credit at the end of the year because they were eligible for it for each of the 12 months, they are absolutely confused. They'll send a letter and says you did not turn in the correct 1095-A because it shows no subsidy or credit, but you're asking for one. Well, yeah, we're just taking it as a big lump sum at the end of the year. All right. Okay. Told the other thing that's on the 8962 is that there is a thing where you have to reconcile it based on a year of marriage. So if two people get married, one has employer insurance, the other one has it through the marketplace, you have to do what's called an alternative calculation. It's on the back of the 8962. All right? So I understand these, and every single one of these that happens in EG tax, I end up with on my desk to do the calculation. That being said, we had a denial of one from the IRS. We sent in the supporting calculations. It's like about 4 pages I did of calculations. Denied again. So we called the number. We got the department that handles the advanced premium tax credit, 8962s. They get transferred around a couple times. I'm with Chris, who's the vice president, and the client sitting in the room while we're on speakerphone handling this. We get to this. We have somebody that is an ACA specialist level 2. So obviously they become proficient enough that they've been promoted from level 1 to level 2. Think you're going to get your answers, right? IRS. Explain our case, explain the calculations, talked about all the publications I pulled it out of, this and that. Get done. She goes on the phone. She goes, sounds good to me because they've never trained us on any of this, so I think you're right. I could have told them any number, and she probably would have said you're right and then issued them the rest of their refund because they were withholding their refund. So that's how, you know, just spaghetti bowl this whole thing is, okay? That's the IRS. So the IRS is overseeing on the federal. We have this New York State marketplace that obviously Angela's passionate about. So if you don't want to do taxes, you could get a job at the call center. So that, you know, this is the animal that we deal with, and it's now part of your tax return. There are tons of people, because of the way these calculations are handled, that don't put the income in right, or the person at the marketplace does it. They come to see us to do their tax return, and they go, where'd my refund go? And guess what? All that insurance money you got to help pay for your premium, you now have to pay it back because you gave the wrong income. And if you have an individual or a household that budgets their refund to pay their property tax, what just happened? They wiped out their refund and they have no money to pay their property taxes. And they're looking at me like, well, you got to do something. Can't you give me an exemption for it? The thing we've noticed is, Karen and I were talking about today, of the people we do, fewer and fewer have to come see us for recertification now, because we're also doing their tax returns after we straightened out their health care. And we have their income projected so close within the parameters that it automatically renews them and they don't have to do income recertification. So it's just like your employer plan, just keeps rolling over unless you want to change. But if your income's outside of certain parameters, then you have to recertify and go through this whole process. Okay? So we have that. The 1095A, if you take a look at the one on page 16.8, okay? Column A is what your enrollment premium would be. So the plan you select, what you would pay for that, all right? Column B is the second lowest cost silver plan. Column C is the credit that you're receiving per a month. All right, so I showed this to the morning, and this is the one that kind of dumbfounds everybody. But again, nature of what we're dealing with, okay? God bless it. You know, I answered these questions this morning. I'm still not a robot. I haven't changed identity. Is there a car hiding in there? No? Hey, okay. So for 2017, I have a single person, and we're going to say that they made $35,000, okay? So they would be eligible for $119 a month in 2017 to help pay for their health insurance, okay? Like I said, everything's based off the second lowest cost silver, and silver is pretty standard. That's kind of the baseline for everything, okay? So if you got a little piece of paper, write down these numbers for me. So he's got $119 a month. His cheapest insurance is $261.67. That's after his subsidy or credit. All right, so the base is $380. He's going to pay $261.67 in 2016. Okay. Second lowest cost silver. The base price is $397.02. He would pay $278. Okay. Everybody see those numbers? Got it? All right. Now, we're going to go back and we're going to take a year in the future. Okay. What has everybody heard about the premiums for next year? They're going to skyrocket, aren't they? Marketplace, you see in the paper, all the insurance companies, gosh, we're not making ends meet. You know, everything's going up 18 to 35% on the premiums. You know, if you're in the marketplace, you got a letter and you're going, my insurance is going to be what? And I got all these phone calls saying, I got to meet you with you. We got to choose a different plan. I can't afford this. Okay. We have our same individual. We said that he is a one-person tax household individual making $35,000, correct? Okay. 2018, his subsidy or credit is now $250. He lives in Erie County. 2017, he got $119. 2018, he's going to get $250.53. Okay? Remember those numbers I had you write down? Okay? Whoops. All right. So if he stays on his same cheap silver plan, what was the base price for it? Okay. His base price is now for the cheapest silver is $408. But guess what he's going to pay this year? $158. What was he paying in 2016 or 2017 for his lowest cost silver one?
$261.67.
Yeah. So though the insurance that he had, the premium went up, his cost went down. Okay. Reason being, second lowest cost silver. What did I show you was the other one? It was 380 something. Yeah. The second lowest. Now the second lowest cost silver is $521 because the second lowest cost silver plan went up so much, it increased the subsidy of credit. What did he pay for his cheap plan on the first one? He can now get better insurance company for the same price. That premium tax credit, who's paying the bill? Patrick's raising his hand in the back. So I think he's here because he's writing down these numbers because he's going to be writing a letter to his local representative or congressman saying, wait a second here, okay? Where's my share? All right. So what I'm saying is, even though everybody's complaining right now about the premiums going up for 2018, there's a lot of people that I've actually been able to upgrade their insurance at the same price because the premium tax credit went up so much. Bob's shaking his head. Doesn't. But because the way the Affordable Care Act is written by county, if this is the second lowest cost silver plan in my county, that's what is used to calculate my premium tax
Does
credit.
it vary by state too?
No, it varies by county because everything's done by county.
You know what I'm saying, from state to state? Does,
It can,
see,
yes.
I have an aunt who's late 50s. She's
Mhm.
single. You know, she doesn't make a huge income, whatever. Her insurance premiums through the marketplace are through the roof, and
If-
she cannot get.
If she's in a state that is non,
She's in Louisiana.
yeah, so they're probably a state that did not expand the Medicaid, so they're still basing everything off the 100% of the poverty level. Whereas in New York, 138%, plus if you're up to 200%, you can still get the essential plan.
And she's employed, she just can't get in, she's employed by a church that doesn't offer.
Yep, so you can be twice the poverty level in New York and get $20 a month insurance. New York and Minnesota are the only two states that offer this. So, all right. And as people know from the Medicaid, we have the most encompassing Medicaid program in the country. When you explain, because there's clients that I do from all over with other marketplaces, when I explain to them that part of their Medicaid is that they get picked up and taken to their doctor that's covered by their Medicaid in New York, it blows other people away. Other states are going, what? Yeah, that's part of your thing. You get picked up and taken to your doctor's appointments and whatever else. Okay. So that's how that premium tax credit that we're reconciling. So when you see that, that's what we're reconciling on the tax return. Okay. All right. On page 1621, you kind of see one filled in there. So we have their monthly enrollment premiums, their second lowest cost silver, and their monthly advanced. As it says there, Tim here had a good year. So his income was a lot higher than what he should have been or what he put into the marketplace. So that $145.50 that he received, he's probably going to pay it back. But we'll show you how that calculation works when we get into the problems. Okay. All right. That's that one. Okay, so we've covered it. So the way we're going to learn the rest of this, we're going to actually do the problems. We're going to do all the problems together. Okay. So what I want you to do is, if you don't have it, if you go to page 213, you got Michael and Lori Gray. If you remember them from another chapter, you probably already have their return.
We're just gonna add on to them.
Yep, so if you got that return in your system, Michael and Lori Gray, they were from chapter, let's see, 3.2. Okay? So we're going to use their return and we're going to do everything. So we're going to take 5 minutes while you find it. If you don't, if you just want to pop it in real quick. All right. I'm recording again, so don't say anything bad, Angela. Okay, are you done? Okay.
Did you get all that?
Well, what's that?
Did you get all that ranking?
You know what? Your neck was turning red.
No, did you get it on there? Did you
Oh yeah, it's recorded on here. So I'll be sharing it with everybody, you know, and then you'll get on YouTube and you'll probably start trending.
Yes.
Isn't that what it's called?
I
Yes.
might start a whole new movement.
That's right. You know, if you get to a certain number of views, you start generating income through YouTube. You'll be making extra money. And then guess what? You're off Medicaid. Okay. All right. So let's go to our return here. We have the grays. Okay. So the first problem, 16.1, it says that everything's there. You know, they have it. They had insurance for the entire year, correct? So they received, just like the return is, it's the first one we had. We go to our ACA worksheet, okay? They had insurance through whatever, might have been an employer, so we're no and no. This thing, I've been having you just check it off. This explains why I've been having you do this, okay? If I can account for all 12 months of the year, either through having insurance or an exemption, I can count that they had 12 months of coverage. Okay, so that's why this says minimum essential coverage and or is applying or was granted an exemption. So I check the first box if I have anything that I can account for all 12 months. So if I have 9 months of insurance and 3 months of an exemption, I've accounted for all 12 months. That's why we're checking that box, okay? So we do those for each of them, all right? Pretty straightforward. That's what we've been doing every time, okay? Now, next problem, we're on 16.2. All of a sudden, everybody had insurance through the marketplace, and the kiddos were on Child Health Plus. Child Health Plus, the essential plan, Medicaid, you do not reconcile it on the tax return. That's why they're saying they'll never catch up with you, because your tax return is where they would show that you're not eligible, but there's no form on the tax return to show that you're on Medicaid. And it doesn't ask if it's Medicaid, they just ask you if you have 12 months of insurance. So they're never going to catch up with you. Okay? All right? So you could have Medicaid for a year and really nobody'd ever catch up with you in the state of New York. All right? So our next one we have here, we got Michael and Lori Gray. Now they have it through the marketplace. We have a 1095A, okay? So let's go to our ACA worksheet. What's our first question? Did the taxpayer, spouse, or any dependent receive insurance through the marketplace? Yes. All right, so we're gonna check yes. Okay. It shows that they were covered all 12 months. So do we need to come up with an exemption form at all? No. Okay. But once we do that 12 months, all right, what is generated on the left? 8962. See the little thing on your tree shows an 8962? As soon as I say marketplace, on my tree on the left, I have an 8962. So we're going to go to that. All right? This is your calculus class for the day. Okay? Household size, we said 4. Modified adjusted gross income. As I said here, if little Joshua or little Jessica work at Tim Hortons and make money, I have to put that in. You can see that it's red. It's not taxable income on the tax return, but it's calculated and seeing what they might have to pay back. Okay? We have, our next question is federal poverty line. Obviously, Alaska and Hawaii are kind of outliers because obviously that you live there, your cost of living is higher, so your poverty level is higher. But everybody else, 48 states, I check that. What's it give me? Gives me my percentage of the poverty level. So this family is living at 239% of the poverty level. All right? Okay. As we move down, we see that we now have a calculation based on the second lowest cost silver. And do you want me to show you how they get the applicable table for the 0.0779?
No.
Okay, good answer. All right. So basically, they have a monthly contribution. Is that they said they can afford $377 a month for their health insurance. Okay. Yes. All right. So my next question is, I go to part 2. I have, are you allocating the policy? No. That's the whole marriage thing that the IRS special agent level 2 in the Affordable Care Act doesn't even know. Okay. So it's top secret. So never look at page 2 of the 8962.
We just put no.
If you have a married one, just call me and I'll give you the calculations. Like I said, I've gotten good enough I can almost do them in my head. So, but if I showed you how to do the calculation, there's 3 separate publications that you have to pull from to get the calculation. You know, like there's a, you know, like some of the stuff we've had about a publication for retirement. There's 3 of them for the Affordable Care Act. 3 separate ones.
And this is if you have one spouse on the marketplace and one spouse with.
That got married.
They got married in the year.
Yeah, and so the person that was in the marketplace fell out of the marketplace, went on the other spouse's employee plan, then that credit has to be reconciled on the months they were not married. And that's fine, okay? Next thing down, it says we have to decide, just ignore this part, we have to decide, do they have all 12 months or were they on a partial year, okay? In this case, we're gonna do yes for 10 because they had all 12 months. So that means we're going to go to line 11. All right. Now, on page 217, you have your 1095A. All right. If we look at these columns here, this is where it gets a little fuzzy. But on our 1095A, we have column A, right? What's it say here? 1095A, line 33A, or column A. What's the amount? Yep, so down at the bottom it says $8,439.36. Okay, and
I'm trying to read it and understand.
don't. You check yes if they had it all 12 months of the marketplace. You check no if they only had less than 12 months. Okay, don't read all the other stuff, please. Okay, just know that's the rule.
Just read that. You said don't try to understand.
All right. So next one, column B on the 8962 says we pull form 1095A line 33B, which is 780.36. Okay. So now all of a sudden you see these are all calculated numbers. All right. We're going to go to the last column. On the 8962, it's column F. But we're getting it from column C on the 1095A. Okay? Why does it not match? Why do they not? Yeah, it's like a W-2. The boxes all match on the W-2, not on this one. Okay? So we have that, and what's our number? 5,100. Okay? So we've entered 1095A, 1095B, 1095C. Okay, like I said, the only one that gets a little fuzzy is the C column on the 1095A goes in the 8962 column F. All right, so in their alphabet, F equals C. All right. Okay. Now, if I scroll down to the bottom, what do I see? 2 sections. If they got too much, or if they didn't get enough credit, I'm going to get them. But what's this bottom one say? Repayment. So what happens? Based on their income and what they got in the marketplace, they got $2,549 too much in the premium tax credit or advanced premium tax credit. But, okay, there's more to the story. What's the next one?
They limit it.
Because
It's back too much.
yeah, why would you pay it all back if you didn't deserve it? Okay, they only have to pay $1,500 back.
He walked out because he couldn't bear to hear it anymore.
All right, so I have $1,500 as my maximum payback based on their income. If their income is at 300% of the poverty level, that repayment max is $2,500. If their income is greater than 400% of the poverty level, they repay it all back. So that 239%, because their income was at 239% of the poverty level, they only have to pay back $1,500. So you think this is a loophole? Okay. What happens if I go back up and little Joshua did work at Tim Hortons? And I put another $5,000 for him on the income there. They're now at 260%. They got $3,375 too much credit. But how much are they paying back? Ooh. So you got all this help to pay for your health insurance, didn't deserve it, but you don't have to pay it back. We understand that you were inaccurate in your income.
Where did you put that 5,000?
Back up top. Remember where I said there's the little red box that's up there? So if you look there on 2B, any dependents, okay? If I put, okay, 10,000 in there, okay? They now got 4,221 too much. But how much are they repaying? So they just got $3,700, or no, excuse me, $2,700 of free insurance premiums because they could not project their accurate income. Okay? All right. Little Joshua worked some overtime making donuts. 15,000. Okay. Now how much do they have to pay back? Because they went to 301% of the poverty level. So what's mom and dad, Michael and Lori, going to tell little Joshua?
You can't work no overtime.
Yeah. Because why? Then we pay too much for our health insurance. What are you shaking your head about? Well, when you start breaking it down, you're going, really? This is our law? Okay. What's that? You know, it is mine. I have to live it. Okay. All right. So we're going to take our little critters out of there. Yeah. Nope, you don't have to, because if you do the line where they had 12 months, okay? All right. Now, we're going to go to 16.3, okay? We read everything's the same, but we read the bullet points. The entire family did not have health care the entire year. Both children were covered under New York Child Health Plus. Okay, so they still paid their $15 a month. They could afford that, but they dropped. The family stopped paying on insurance for the last 2 months of the year. Okay, so we're going to go back to our ACA worksheet. So on your tree, go to your ACA, page 1. We're in the marketplace, right? Now what happens? They have 2 months that they're not covered. Do we want them to pay a penalty, or we should try to get them off the hook? If it's Angela, she's sending them to the gallows.
You can probably get them off the hook, is what you're saying.
Okay, we're going to get them off the hook. That's our job. Okay, we're on the radio all the time talking about this, that we can get them off the hook. So we're going to check yes. What did that make populate on my little tree on the left? So I checked on the ACA worksheet, the second box, I'm going to say yes, because I'm looking for an exemption. What's that form? 8965. Okay. All right. Has anybody been watching their refund up in the corner?
Yeah.
What was the original refund? $2,328. What is their refund now? And remember I said about people taking too much premium tax credit and then they come in? and maybe that 2,300 was gonna go to their property taxes. All of a sudden now that 2,300 is 800 bucks. Doesn't affect the state, but affects the federal, okay? So we have them accounted for all 12 months, correct? So we're still gonna check the first box behind their name. So under Michael, we said that we have 10 months of insurance, 2 months of exemption, we got all 12 months, okay? First thing we're gonna do is go to our 8962. We've answered all the questions the same, but now when we get to question 10, and Angela, you're gonna skip A, B, and C under 10, okay? Just ignore all that, do not read that, okay? Okay, so yes, if we have all 12 months, no, if we have less than 12 months. So on this 1095A that's on page 220 in your workbook, do we have all 12 months? No. So we're gonna check no. Make sure you get rid of the numbers that were in the line 11. I have known tax preparers to leave it in both spots, and that would be called double dipping. So we're going to create the 1095A that we see on 220. We're going to create that in the 1095A. Little secret, if you go to the old fashioned keyboard things, if you hit Control-C, okay, you don't have to type them, because then you can hit Control-V for each one of them.
So you don't put the annual premiums in 11?
No,
Annual total?
no, because 11 is annual. That's all 12 months. I'm dropping down. So take all those totals out. Okay. So we put my 703. We put my 590. And again, if you hit Control-C, then you can hit Control-V and the rest of them. For those that are old keyboard people. Okay. And they have 280 in their last one. What's that? So you have to type each one? So put it in, leave the square, go back in and hit Control-C. Hold down the, and hit Control-C. Okay? And then as you go down the column, you just have to hit Control-V. What's that? Okay, so yep, hit Enter. And then go back into it now. Now hit Control-C to copy it. Okay, now go to the next one. Just hit Control-V. Yep. And just keep going down. What's that? Control-V. Yep. V is in victory. So you can copy it. Okay? All right. So in case you don't want to make a typo, you can just keep copying it. All right. So we now have everything in there. We go down to the bottom of their 8962. How much are they paying back?
Why does the numbers not add up in column C? It says 5,100 in the book here.
Yeah, it should just be 2,800.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay? Because they had 280 each month.
Right, it should have been 2,800, which is what I have calculated, but the book says 5,100.
Yeah. Just the 20. So they had $670 too much. All right?
It says 2,130.
Nope, go down farther.
Oh,
You're up here,
okay.
down here.
Yeah, 670.
So they have a repayment of $670. Okay? Which one?
Go down some more.
Part 3? You still got everything filled out up top? Okay, go back up to the top. Change this one to make sure you answer question 10 is no, because you don't have all 12 months. All right? Okay, so now they're paying back $670. What's the other thing I have to go do? For on the totals, they should the premium tax credit $2130. Their advanced was $280 or $2,800, so they have to pay back $670. Okay, you get it? Okay, so. Yeah, so take those out. Yep, you got carried away. You got
so excited about
the control V.
I was doing Control D.
No, control V. Yep. That's for those old people that before mouses, that's the way you used to move around the keyboard. Yep. All right. Okay, so we got that. All right. So what's that? Yep. Well, you have to in this one because you can't right click and copy and paste. So it's not mouse driven, trust me. Okay. So we have them in there for the 670. All right. So at least now we got some of their refund back. All right. And what's the other thing we have to do? Now we got to count for the last 2 months.
So 89.65.
Go to the 89.65. We're not going to do a marketplace because what do they have? Short term. So we have, whoops. Part 1 we're not going to use. Part 2, ask us, are you claiming a hardship exemption because your gross income is below the filing threshold? Well, no. Okay. Again, if they're in the marketplace paying for insurance and their income is below the filing threshold, next thing I'm doing is taking them right over the marketplace and getting them on Medicaid. Because I don't know why they're paying. All right? That's with their income. So we're going to say no. So I'm going to go to part 3. All right. 89.65. See right below your 89.62? Okay. So we're going to part 3. I'm not going to worry about Social Security numbers. What is my exemptions? Is a B. Okay.
Did you carry those names over? They should carry.
I typed them in.
Okay.
So.
My program's not working like.
So actually you should put Michael Gray, Lori Gray, Social Security numbers. Okay. So, but I have them there. So I'm going to put him in as a B. Whoops. And what months did they not have insurance? I'm going to check those 2 boxes. Okay. Remember the table that you have on page 16.6. Okay. If you look at 16.6, see where that's third one down says short-term coverage gap, and it has a letter in the right. That's our code for our 89.65. Okay. All right. So we're going to put a B in the kids. You know, it sounds like they had Child Health Plus, but you know, we're going to not make that assumption. Maybe they stopped paying for the kids too. So I'll put my B in there. Oops. And my form's too big. Hold on. Okay. So over here, I got November and December checked. Okay.
And what page was it?
16.6. All right. So I've accounted now for all 12 months. They don't have a penalty, and now I've salvaged at least part of their refund. We went from 23 down to 800. At least now we're back in the ballpark of 1,600. Okay. So at least there's some recovery. If you've noticed through this whole process, what's not changed? State refund never changed. None of this has anything to do with the state. Yeah.
Did you say 1658 was the federal?
Yes.
1654.
It came up because they chose not to pay for insurance the last 2 months of the year. So rather than take the money and have it sent to the insurance company, all right, they have taken and have it in a refund so they can keep it. We got an exemption. Yeah. So that way that their refund doesn't shrink to 800, at least they salvage something.
And we got the B from what? Oh, I see the thing.
Yep, short-term gap. You're going to use that one quite a bit. If you think about 3 months, you know, it doesn't happen. Well, it still happens a little bit depending on your employer. When you are hired by somebody, what do you typically have? 60 to 90-day probationary period before you get benefits. Short-term gap. So if somebody changes jobs, they don't have insurance, they're not going to penalize them because they couldn't get it through their employer because they're on a probationary period. Okay? All right. Now, we're going to take this a step farther. This is not one of the problems, but this is what we're going to do. Okay? So we have, we're going to go back to our ACA worksheet. All right? And we're actually going to say that the Grays decided they're not going to have insurance for the last 5 months of the year. Okay? So, I'm not going to be able to get them exemption. I probably could find them one. I could probably do a hardship. There's many other things we could do, but for our case here. So, now, I have, did the taxpayer go through the marketplace? Yes, I have a 1095A. I'm on my ACA worksheet. Okay? Was the taxpayer through the marketplace exemption? Yes. Okay. We can do up to 3 months. All right. Okay. I have 2 months I cannot account for. So I cannot account for the months of November and December. So I'm going to go down after each name and I'm going to check the last box and I'm going to check November and December because that's when they're going to pay the penalty for. Okay, so after Michael, you're on box 3. It says did not have minimum essential coverage and is not claiming exemption for any part of the year. What's that? On all 4. Yep, so do that to all 4. Okay.
That's right.
Okay. All right. And we're going to go to our 8962. And I'm going to take out the months of August, September, October. So they should have the last 5 months blank. Okay. So they still got too much, but now what comes into play? They have a penalty. What is their federal?
We owe 226.
So this family had insurance for 12 months. I took them for a $2,300 refund. And because they got too much in the marketplace and had a few months where they didn't have insurance, they now owe the federal government $226. What'd you have? Did you take out everything in columns?
A, B, and F.
I'll take August and September out too. Yeah, because we have 5 months. 3 months of a gap, but we couldn't take into account November, December. Okay?
So why didn't we check August through December on the ACA?
Because we have an exemption for 3 months. Okay? So now my 89.65. All right, I'm still there, I'm fine, because I'm gonna check October. Well, actually, I'm gonna check here August, September, October, okay? Because those are the 3 months after the end of their insurance.
On the ACA page, what you said, take off November and December. Because we can do exemptions for,
On the ACA worksheet, the boxes that I checked are the months that they're paying the penalty.
November and December.
Mhm.
Okay, that's the month that came, it was 5 months, but they're paying the penalty for November.
Okay. On the 89.65, I'm checking August, September, October. That's my 3-month gap.
Okay,
Okay. Now I could probably get all 5 months taken care of. But for this sake, this is just what I'm doing because I want you to show you how all the calculations work. Now, after you do that, go to your ACA page 2.
it's throwing red flags on that page.
Okay.
Like red flags.
All right. What's it show their penalty to be at the bottom? $2,085. That is their insurance penalty or their shared responsibility penalty. So if they did not have insurance for November and December for everybody in the family, they are paying a penalty of $2,085.
Because you can excuse the 3 months.
Yep. Okay. And again, what shows up on that sheet, on the ACA worksheet number page 2? What's line 7 talk about again?
The modified income.
And so I'd have to throw Junior in there. So that might even jack up my penalty. In this case, it doesn't. But if I throw a little Joshua or Jessica in there, making another $8,000 at their summer jobs, it could jack my penalty up. Doesn't change my tax return. Doesn't change my earned income if I have the earned income credit, but it jacks up my penalty. So they're getting you coming and going, aren't they? Okay. So that's how the Affordable Care Act works, that everybody is fighting and scrapping to keep in place.
I probably need to clarify myself. I'm not upset that people get help that need help.
Well, that's what I'm going to talk about
I
here.
think sometimes it hurts people.
The Affordable Care Act, again, is very good in what it's trying to do because everybody deserves health care, an opportunity to acquire health care. And the thing, and I kind of, when we started out doing this whole thing, and especially when I talked about the earned income credit, the disheartening thing at times is for those individuals that fell on hard times and need assistance that they paid into, it's great.
Super.
But when you start to see the abuse, that's where you get a little bit frustrated.
Right.
Okay.
Super easy, and they can